and welcome to today's session. My name is Chris Grassi, and I'm the Managing Director of Highmetric here in the UK. This morning, I'll be your host for the next 45 minutes as we explore how to maximize your ServiceNow investment and improve your end user experience with Nexthink. For those of you who are unfamiliar with us, Highmetric are a global elite ServiceNow partner who specialize in helping our clients get work done with the ServiceNow platform. With us today, we've invited Nexthink, a strong partner of ours that we've been working with over the past 8 months, to help our joint clients support the end-to-end management of their employee digital experience on the call. Now, we have found that some of the biggest IT-related issues that really block employee engagement is around the employee experience. So we've been working with Nexthink over the past 18 months to really help our organizations and our joint clients unlock that within their own organizations and transform the experience for their employees across the organization. So with me today, it's my pleasure to introduce Richard Pegden from Nexthink. He's a senior solution consultant with over 20 years experience in the IT industry, focusing mainly over that time in the service management space. And Rob Bridgman, who is another senior solution consultant with Nexthink, who we've worked very closely with, who has over 15 years experience also in the service management space and previously comes from organizations such as ServiceNow, CA, and Oblicor. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Richard and Rod. Over to you guys.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. So to start with, let's just take a quick look at what we'll cover in today's session. Nexthink has a number of integrations with ServiceNow, and that's where we want to start the presentation today to give you visibility of how you can A, maximize the investment that you have made in the ServiceNow platform and technology, and B, look at some of the benefits that come from integrating Nexthink with ServiceNow by getting that greater visibility of the user experience. And that's ultimately what Nexthink is all about, giving you visibility of the true user experience. There are 4 out-of-the-box areas where we integrate with ServiceNow, and we'll take you through each of those in this session. Firstly, how do we help you reduce the mean time to resolution? So looking specifically at incident management integration, and we'll take you through the integration, how real-time data helps your level 1 support teams triage and diagnose faster and ultimately reduce that mean time to resolution. Then we'll take a look at other areas where Nexthink integrates with ServiceNow, namely the CMDB into the event management module, and also looking at the virtual agent technology. Then we'll take a little bit of a step back and give you a broader view of how Nexthink gives you that visibility of the user experience and enhances the way that you provide support to your organizations. So that's our agenda for today. And please feel free to post any questions in the chat box during the webinar, and we'll get to those at the end. So to begin with, let's take a look at how we can help you reduce that mean time to resolution. So this is all about incident management integration. And the way that this works, as we'll see when we look at a live demo in a moment, Nexthink provides real-time visibility of the health of the user's device directly inside ServiceNow. So as a ticket, a call is coming into the service desk, we select the user, select their device, which may be an automatic link if the user is constantly using the same device. And we'll show you how we can give you, your support teams, that visibility of the device that they're using and highlight any issues that may be relevant to the call that the user is putting in. What does that help you achieve? Well, we've seen with our customers reductions of mean time to resolution of between 15 to 25% on average. As one example, we have an NHS organisation who one of their common calls into the service desk was around Outlook corruptions. And the time taken was around about half an hour to firstly understand the issue, and then secondly, remote onto the machine, rebuild the user's profile, and get that user able to work with Outlook again. Using Nexthink integrated with ServiceNow, that has now been automated to just a couple of minutes. And you can make significant differences dependent on the types of issues that your users may be occurring. So we give you that visibility of device status. We also give you the ability to just fire a very quick link, automate common resolution tasks. We had one customer that told us having this visibility, this information at our fingertips is changing the conversation with our users, and as a result, changing the perception of IT with the employee base. And that's just some of the benefits that you get from the incident management integration. So at this point, Rod, could you take us through the incident management integration and show us how that looks?
So so what I'm going to do now is, go and have a look at the, how this integration actually works with ServiceNow. In terms of what we're looking at now, ServiceNow, this is the New York release of ServiceNow. It's got a bit of Nexthink branding on it, which is a pretty straightforward thing to do. Well, I'm sure all you know how to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to see just how this incident enrichment process actually works from the ServiceNow perspective. So, the fairly standard sort of ServiceNow incident form. I'm going to pick this chap called George Daniels, who's having a problem with his PC's performance. I can then go and pick the configuration item we're interested in, which is a PC which is assigned to him. So I'm going to say assign that as his configuration item. Literally, as soon as we've done that, we see the various information come up here that's pertinent to that particular configuration item. Then what I can do is just give this a reason for opening this incident. So I can say PC is running slow. And then if we scroll down a little bit down the page, what we can then do is we can see that we've had a number of different tabs which have automatically popped up into this incident. Now what's happening here in the background, as soon as I put that configuration item actually into this incident, ServiceNow is talking to Nexthink and is actually pulling this information back into this ServiceNow incident in real time. So let's have a look at this type of information that's available. So first of all, what we're doing is we're pulling out a load of background information about the actual device itself. And so again, this is out of the box integration. Again, we can pull back more information, we can pull back less information, but fundamentally this is very much the out of the box that we're looking at now. So we can see here some information about the actual device itself. If we scroll through these tabs, we can then see what the relative state of this actual configuration item is, this PC he's working on. And we can see down here that in terms of a hardware refresh, everything's looking all right, but it looks like we've got one or two maybe issues starting to creep in here. We've got some high CPU utilization, and we've got some high memory scores. If we scroll again through the next tab, we can see something called their digital experience score. Now we're going to have a look at this in a little bit more detail later on, but again, it's pointing to the fact that there's potentially an issue with there's an issue with this actual PC he's working on. If we look at the next tab, we can see what business applications that George has been working on. This time it's Skype for Business, and if we look at their Skype for Business usage, we can see they've been having some problems with this too. So it's not purely about the actual PC they've been working on. It can also be what business applications they've been accessing and what the performance has been like of those business applications too. The one that's really important though is this final one. It's called our L1 checklist. And what that's doing is actually pulling back a load of relevant information to the analyst about exactly what's going on that machine. So typically what happens is somebody phones up the service desk and say, my PC is running slow. There then has this conversation that goes on between the analyst and the person at the other end of the phone trying to do a triaging about exactly what's causing the issue. Now, let's face it, most people in business who are using a PC probably aren't an IT expert. Even for some of us IT experts ourselves some of the time. So what chance does the standard user have in terms of expressing exactly what's wrong with their PC? And so very typically, there's a load of questions the analyst has to go through to actually try and ascertain even the remotest idea of what might be causing this PC to run slow. But we can see straight away in here, we've populated this incident, and we can see we've got high CPU utilization, we've got high memory utilization, we can see they're not using the standard corporate browser, and we can see they've been having various problems with the application Outlook. Furthermore, over on the right-hand side, we can see we've got some automated responses to this. And so Nexthink has a catalog of predefined out-of-the-box automations that literally is available to the analyst then to go and click on to go and debug this. Now, actually, what it's doing in the background, it's running a piece of PowerShell on that end user device and making things happen. And so again, if you have your own PowerShell skills, you can write anything you want. But again, we provide a large catalog of these already predefined for you. And you can see down here, it might be just triggering a reboot, it might be doing a disk cleanup, or it might be collecting some more detailed information around the BIOS of the of that end user device. The great thing we're doing here, though, is we're greatly shortening the triage time of this incident. So Nexthink was deployed to a major Dutch bank recently, and they reduced their average incident handling time from 15 minutes down to 3 minutes by using this type of technology. So there's some significant benefit to be achieved by using this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to duck into Nexthink and have a quick look at Nexthink. Now, Nexthink has got two user interfaces. It has a portal, which I'm going to come on to show you a little bit later, which has got some nice reporting and dashboards. It also has something called the Finder, which is very much more the technical view, very much for the technicians inside your organization, very much to analyze and drill down into specific areas of detail to understand things at a very granular level. And so that configuration item that I was interested in there, it was CHDB 207. So if I just do a quick search on that particular configuration item in our Finder, we can see it's found the device. And then what I can do, I can drill down and actually investigate what's actually going on in that individual device. So the first screen we come to, this is called our timeline view, and is really a historical view of everything that's happened on that individual device over the recent past. And we can see here, we've roughly broken this down into a 3-hour view, and I'm going to come back to look at this in a bit more detail in a second. We can see we've also pulled back a load of information from that end user device, a load of detail in here, about CPU, about, what the processes it's running. Again, lots of pretty granular level of detail, exactly what, a technical analyst needs in order to do the triaging on this individual machine. We can then also see we've got a number of what we call scores, which are literally groups of metric that we can actually score this end user device by. So we can see what we call the digital experience score down here. We can see a productivity view, we can see a security view, and more importantly, we can scroll across here and we can see things. We can see our L1 checklist across here too as well. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at this timeline view, and I want to understand why this high CPU utilization is actually happening. And so the first thing I'm going to do across here is I'm going to reduce this view to being a daily view. Now I'm going to scroll back in time to actually ascertain exactly where that's been happening. And what we can see down here is this high CPU utilization actually appeared at this individual point in time. And what I can then do is I can then look across everything that's happened on that machine at that individual point in time that might have resulted in that high CPU utilization. And what we can see is we can see that actually this person has installed some software. So again, it's that typical conversation you have. Did you install anything on on your machine? No, of course I didn't. Actually, yes, you did, and we can see it. So what they've installed, it might be a piece of freeware, the KM player, but what it's also done, it's also installed the arse.com toolbar as well. And it's a notorious application for slowing down machines and using high CPU. And furthermore, once I've actually identified that that's the potential issue that's causing this, what I can then do is I can then go into here and work out which other devices that might have been impacted by that same problem. And again, so one of the things that Nexthink brings to organization is this proactive capability to actually understand where an issue's happened, then to go and look across the rest of the user community to understand where that same scenario has been replicated. And what you can then do, again, is we can use one of those what we call remote actions to then actually go and remove that arse.com toolbar from any other machines that might have been impacted by that. And so just the way in which Nexthink can give you proactive incident management. Okay, we worked out there was an issue with that person's laptop. And what we then did, we used the L1 checklist to work out exactly what the issue was. We could have then used one of our remote actions to go and start cleaning up the disk and getting more information. Or alternatively, what we did, we drilled down into the technical part of Nexthink, our technical Finder application, and what we've then been able to see exactly what caused the issue and exactly who else might be impacted by that same issue. So that's the first scenario that we wanted to walk you through. So I'm going to pass it back to Rich now, and we're going to talk about the next piece.
That's great. Thank you, Rod. So we've looked at the incident management integration. Let's now take a look at some of the other areas where Nexthink integrates directly with your ServiceNow application. Firstly, CMDB. Now, both Rod and I, our backgrounds are in IT service management, including time at ServiceNow. One of the things that I always used to see in my 20 plus years in IT is the CMDB being the foundation of everything you do from a service management perspective. Yet it's so hard to keep up to date with valuable, useful information that you can use across your incident, problem, change, and many other processes that you may be running within your organization. One of the key ways in which we add value to your CMDB is by giving you visibility of the usage of applications or business services. Now, you can use Nexthink as the primary data source into your CMDB and take all of the device information that we've seen a little bit of so far, or we can be a secondary source. That's probably the more common way in which our customers use this integration. And the key point here is you're getting that visibility of application usage. That gives you a foundation that when you're then looking at major incidents or problems or your change processes, you have an accurate and up-to-date understanding of who is using which applications across your organization. What does that mean for you? Well, firstly, it allows you to improve both your impact analysis for major incidents and problems, as well as your risk analysis as part of your change management processes. So you can view users and devices consuming a service, as you can see in the screenshot. We'll see that in the product in a moment. Secondly, we also integrate with the event management module inside ServiceNow as well. So if you're using event management, you're taking feeds from some of your network monitoring or application monitoring systems, Nexthink can provide that lens of user experience into the event management module inside ServiceNow, and now start to give you a more holistic and complete picture of where there are potentially issues across your environment. How is the user experience being impacted? So the important piece here, absolutely the user experience lens coming into the event management module inside ServiceNow, giving you the ability to better manage major event outages that you may experience across your organization. And then thirdly, We also integrate with the ServiceNow virtual agent or chatbot. And what we add to the chatbot technology is the ability to be able to, rather than just providing links to knowledge base articles, now enable a user to be able to self-help and also self-heal. And again, we'll see this in the product demonstration in a moment, the ability to bring up real-time information from Nexthink inside the ServiceNow virtual agent and enable the user to make an informed decision to potentially resolve the issue they may be having themselves. This again, we mentioned earlier about changing the conversation. This is about changing the game from an IT perspective, putting more visibility in the hands of your support teams and more capability in the hands of your end users. So we've just talked about CMDB, event management, and chatbot integration. Rod, could you take us through those in the product, please?
Absolutely, Rich. So if we go back to my Nexthink environment, actually my ServiceNow environment, what I'm going to do, I'll just come back out of that incident. I'm not going to save that for the time being. And so the first piece that Rich spoke about was our ability to enrich the CMDB type information that we have within ServiceNow. And so what we're really doing here, again, another real-time lookup. I've got my SAP service down here. If I drill into that SAP, we can see down here straight away it's done that lookup, and what we can see is literally all the different types of users who are actually consuming that service. If we scroll down a little bit further, we can see also exactly what devices is accessing that service too. So in terms of change management, if you want to understand, how many people are going to be impacted by a specific change, how many people are really accessing a business service, this is great information for you. And so it helps from change management. If you're doing application portfolio management, again, it's also allowing you to understand exactly how many people are actually consuming these services and who is really using them, as opposed to who is just, who has it on their desktop, only access it once every 3 months. Furthermore, I can then drill down into an individual, and it cuts the other way as well. So I can go into an individual, and then I can see what services this individual is consuming too. And so, you can start by going to a business service and understand who's accessing that business service, or you can go into an individual and then understand what services that end user is consuming. So that's the first piece I wanted to show you. The next piece that we have is in terms of event management integration. And so again, we can power some dashboards, and this is just a little dashboard that we've very simply set up here, about how many incidents have been resolved with the help of Nexthink, but also down here, how many alerts that have been generated through a direct feed from Nexthink into ServiceNow's event management module. And again, if I duck into one of these incidents, what I can then do, I can go and see exactly what incidents, what alarms and alerts have been generated against this individual device. And so literally taking the information that Nexthink is finding about that end user device, feeding it into ServiceNow, doing the aggregation, the correlation of those, and potentially, taking what could be an event storm and translating it down into maybe 1 or 2 incidents to help your incident management process. So that was just another nice little piece of integration. The last piece of integration I want to show you with Nexthink and ServiceNow is the virtual agent capability. And so again, I think you might be familiar with this screen. So this is the out-of-the-box service management tool. Actually, it hasn't gone into that. Let's just change that. There we go. Go into the standard portal. And again, so what I can now do, I've logged in here as a chap called George Smith. Let's open up the virtual agent and then say, again, similar type of conversation that we had previously. My PC, and straight away it's come back, and I was going to say is running slow, and already it's asked, do you want to perform a health check on your PC? And so, okay, let's do a health check on it. So here we go. So this is the chatbot integrating with Nexthink to pull back information, exactly what's going on this end user's device. So again, we can scroll up here and we can see actually it's running short of disk space, and it's asking me if I want to fix it. Actually, for this particular instance, I'm going to say no, because what I'm then going to do is I'm going to ask it to actually fix this for me and fix any other issues it might be finding. So once again, I'm going to come into here and say my PC, and there again. So this time my PC is running slow. It's already down there. I'm going to click onto that one. And so again, logging into Nexthink, pulling back the relevant information around this end user's device. And so again, okay, it's found 3 issues on there. So the first one, my disk is almost full. So again, do you want me to do a disk cleanup? I'm going to say yes. So it's just going to go away. And what it's actually doing in the background is running one of those remote actions that we saw that the incident analyst had the ability to actually kick off. So again, it's done that. Do you want to upgrade Windows? And say yes, we can do that. So again, it's going to go off and it's going to start potentially kicking off that process. And the final part of this one, what we're going to see now is when we do this, it's going to raise an incident in the background, and we'll see that a brand new incident will pop up behind here. So I'm going to say, do you want to remove things from the computer startup? I'm going to say yes. Obviously, having a long startup times must be an issue for John's machine as well. And again, it's just doing this. We'll see the incident pop up on the screen behind. Okay. It'll pop up here in a second. We see it. We see that the instance has now been created, and so fundamentally, what we've done there is, as opposed to the scenario I showed you previously, whereby it was getting information from Nexthink and enriching an incident to allow an analyst to then, maybe do some automated remediations using our remote actions. What we've done here, of course, is we put it all in the hands of the end user. No analyst has been involved in this process. And so literally what it all comes down to is working out what's wrong with that end user's device, giving them options to do self-remediation on there, and allowing them to click on the various buttons down here to actually create those remediations. And so literally no analyst involvement, all completely driven by self-service and automation with a ServiceNow and Nexthink integration. Okay, so that's just a nice little scenario to walk you through there. What I'm going to now do is pass back to Rich, and we're going to do some, and we're going to look at the next part of the presentation.
That's great. Thank you, Rod. So we've seen those screens in the virtual agent. So what we've covered so far is the number of different ways in which ServiceNow integrates and benefits from real-time information from Nexthink. So ways in which you can maximize the investment you have made in the ServiceNow technology. The incident management integration, CMDB, event, and the virtual agent. What we're going to do in this third section of the presentation today is just take a step back from that and help you understand how Nexthink can further support and improve the way you deliver IT to your end users, your employees. And the way in which we do that is by giving you full visibility of the user experience. Nexthink captures close to 800 different user impacting events that happen in their interaction with IT. Things like when an application crashes, when the device freezes, when network response time is slow, when a logon takes too long in the morning. All events that can impact the user's ability to be productive and do their day-to-day role. One of the first questions I would ask you is, do you have full visibility of the user experience? The likes of Forrester and Gartner will differ slightly on this statistic that you see here, but this is replicated across so many of the customers that we work with in terms of if you're looking at data purely from within the service desk, within ServiceNow, you're probably only seeing half the picture. And I've certainly been in front of customers that we've worked with at Nexthink who've said, actually, I think we're lucky if we see half of the issues that our end users are experiencing. It's vital to understand that full picture of the user experience, because I will guarantee in your organization, you've got some users who are suffering in silence, some who are rebooting their own PC because they think that's the first thing IT's going to tell them anyway. They may be bothering a colleague, they may be undertaking Google searches in order to try and fix issues themselves. If they're not logged into the service desk, you don't have visibility of those. But Nexthink gives you that visibility. This is a set of statistics from a Nexthink customer. So a particular issue, which was around problems with Outlook, there were 4 incidents logged in the service desk. But what Nexthink gave that organization visibility of was the fact that there were 72 users who had experienced over 100 crashes of Outlook in the previous week. It was related to a specific version of Outlook, which was installed on over 3,000 devices. So what you're seeing within the service desk is very much the tip of the iceberg. And what Nexthink gives you is that full visibility of the user experience. And how do we do that? So we do that through a number of dashboards, metrics, and they start with the digital experience score, which we'll see in the product in a moment. This is an overall score of the health of the user experience of IT across your organization, and can then be broken down in lots of different ways, as we'll see when we get into the product. How does that benefit you as an organization, as IT, providing technology to your users? It enables you to build this kind of continual service improvement roadmap. So we see a digital experience score of 7.1 at the bottom of the screen, and I'll stress this is a real world roadmap from a global pharmaceutical company, a customer of Nexthink. 7.1 digital experience score at the start of the year. They want to drive up to a score of over 9, and Nexthink is giving them visibility to be able to understand the improvements they need to make in the user experience in order to improve their users' productivity, reduce the amount of downtime, and give their users a better experience of IT. Rod, would you be able to show us in the product how Nexthink customers are able to achieve that?
Absolutely, Rich. So let's go back and have a look at this in real life demonstration time. So previously, I showed you one of the user interfaces into Nexthink, which is our Finder, our technical view, purely for the technicians to go and analyze and drill into those issues in granular detail. Now what we're doing is we're now looking at our portal view. So this is very much the management type dashboards that people are using to understand what delivery is actually going on. And having worked in areas of IT, doing sort of service level management, where literally SLAs, OLAs, and underpinning contracts were king, this is something completely different. And the reason it's completely different is because very typically those SLAs, OLAs, and underpinning contracts are all about the service that IT is providing out to the business. What we're looking at here is we're collecting information from the end user devices, and we're working out exactly how those services are being consumed. And so if that old model is the inside out view, how services are being pushed out to the business, this is literally the outside in view, showing exactly how those services are being used by the users at the coalface. And why is this so important to organizations? Quite simply, because those end users are actually driving those business processes that are generating revenue for your organizations. And literally, it's great that IT provides an SLA that shows everything's green, but if you've got unhappy users, are actually you doing the best for the business that you should be doing? This is what this dashboard is actually designed to show. It's called our digital experience score. And as I've intimated, what we're doing is we have a very lightweight agent we put on those end user devices, and we're drip feeding information back into our Nexthink engine, which is really the smart part of Nexthink, which is then looking at data, correlating it, doing the number crunching on it, and feeding the dashboards and the finder that we're looking at now. So literally, if we look at that score in the top left-hand corner, that's 7.52, that's our score out of 10, is our score of goodness, if you like, on an individual basis about exactly how everything's being consumed by those end users that's being provided by IT. And the great bit about this is, it absolutely doesn't matter if they're being provided by IT, or if they've been outsourced, or if you have a complete SIAM model that's driving this. You know, what we're doing we're looking at it from the end user perspective, as opposed to that traditional model of, services from IT going to the business. And we can see down here that we're scoring 7.52 out of 10. If we look just to the right of that, we can see a trend line. And this was the last chart that Rich showed. And what we're looking to do here is identify areas of poor performance potentially. And once we've identified those, we can build in place a roadmap to help drive scores up. So if it's if you're looking to improve net promoter score, if you're looking to improve productivity, there's kind of three areas that Nexthink helps in: quality of service, compliance, and also transformation. And so, but anyway, you can see the trend line here, and we can see that over a period of time, we're pushing this score up, and again, improving that level of service we're providing out to those end users. Over here on the right side of the screen, we can see the device view. And actually, we can see that there's, circa 600 devices, which are scoring between 8 and 10 out of 10. So they're having a really good time. What I might be more interested in, though, is why are there 5 devices which are only scoring between 0 and 2? Why are they having such a poor time? I want to understand that, because that's obviously going to be dragging our overall score down. We can look down here in the geographical location down here, and it doesn't matter, whereabouts. If you're a complete global organization, we can literally take it down to the individual office type basis, office, site, country, location, whatever it might be, and we can build a hierarchy where we can understand exactly where those issues are actually occurring. And over here on the left-hand side, we actually break the digital experience score down into sort of sectors of IT, or subsets of IT, if that's what you want to call them. So business applications, if you're using, supply chain processes based on SAP, we can understand exactly how they're performing. Device scores, how are the devices, how the end users actually, performing with their devices. We do the overall employee experience as well. So the great thing that Nexthink is doing, it's collecting hard metrics from those end user devices, up to 800 different individual detailed metrics it's collecting from the end user device. But what it's also doing, it's asking the user as well through little surveys, little pop-ups to say, how satisfied are you with the service? And let's say I've just been using SAP, Nexthink knows that user's just been using SAP, and I can actually ping them a survey to say, how was your experience with using SAP the last time you logged on? The analogy I like to use is a Formula One analogy. So the guys in the pits know every single piece of telemetry that's going on around those racing cars as they go around the circuit. What's hot, what's cold, what's performing, literally very detailed telemetry. But they still get on the radio and ask the driver, how's the car performing? How's it going for you? And this is very much the same type of thing that actually Nexthink is doing. But this time for your end users, and it's helping drive productivity, and it's helping to drive efficiency inside your organization. We have productivity and collaboration. We're going to have a look at this in a second, because this one appears to be different. And actually, this is things like your Outlook, your Teams, your Skype for Business. Security is pretty self-explanatory, and web browsing. And so as I said, this is very much the outside-in view, showing how those services are being consumed. And really, organizations use this in three distinct ways. So first of all, they're using operationally. It could be about the fact you could be having some sort of major issue. It could be lots of people are suffering from blue screens. Why is that? I want to understand why that is. I was speaking at an event last week with the UK's NHS, and I had a lady come up to me that said, we've recently deployed Jira across our business, and nobody's using it. And so again, we can use it tactically. We can use Nexthink tactically to work out, why aren't people using Jira? It might be the fact that, they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to log on. It could be a training issue. But we can use Nexthink to actually work out, is it poor response times? Is it the fact they don't know how to use it? That might be a tactical way to use Nexthink. And finally, it strategically. Just supposing your organization wants to migrate to the cloud. So what you can do with Nexthink is you can benchmark exactly where you are now, work out exactly what the performance level is of how those services are being consumed. You can then start to do your cloud migration, maybe to a subset of users. And again, you can poll them all the time to work out, are things better? Are things worse? But you make sure you get it right first with a small subset of users before you then roll it out across your community. So Nexthink can help operationally, it can help tactically, and of course it can help strategically, surfacing critical information and allowing and making that actionable for organizations to do various bits and pieces. Let's drill down though into this productivity and collaboration piece. And so, I can go into a different dashboard in here to actually understand that. And as soon as we drill down into that, we can then see the digital experience score has dropped because we've obviously zoomed into an area of poor performance, if that's what you want to describe it as. And we can see that very typically, this is running around about 8, but on this individual day, it's dropped down here to about 6. And so why has that happened? So let's scroll down the page and see what else Nexthink is allowing us to see. Again, we can see how the individual devices are performing, but also we can see down here, we have this happiness score too. So all the time, I say we're collecting those hard metrics, and the hard objective metrics, and we're collecting that soft subjective end user sentiment. We can see down here that users aren't very happy today. So obviously there's things happening that are going wrong. We can then see the various applications we're looking at, and it looks like OneDrive and Outlook are the two that are potentially causing the issue. If we scroll down a little bit further, we can then see actually that OneDrive actually is improving. Actually, it's not looking too bad at all. If we then scroll down a little bit further, here we come, Outlook. So we're all chugging along quite nicely, and all of a sudden, there it is. It looks like it's dropped off the edge of a cliff. We can see over here it's happening in Europe. What I can then do, I can click onto here and start to interrogate this. So actually, it looks like in Europe, it's coming from Switzerland and Italy. Let's drill down into Switzerland. Okay, understand, okay, look, a number of locations are being impacted in Switzerland. And finally, okay, this location, Locarno, seems to be worst of all. Let's just click onto that to zoom into that individual location. And we can see that, it's having a really bad time. Now, typically what would happen without Nexthink is somebody would phone up the service desk and say, I've got a problem with Outlook today. But what we can see using Nexthink is actually, it's not Outlook at all. If we look over here on the right-hand side of the page, we can see that actually it's network response time that's causing the issue with Outlook, not Outlook at all. And again, so this is what I found through the portal. I now have the option, if I want to go and investigate that in the Finder if I'm an analyst, if I'm a technician, and so I can go and drill into that, the technical view of Nexthink to go and do sort of more root cause analysis and understand exactly where the issue is coming from. And so start from that high digital experience score, drill down to one area, productivity and collaboration, work out what application is causing the issue, work out what, which country or which region it's being impacted, then investigate exactly why that's happening, and so shorten the resolution time for that individual incident. Okay, so that's what I wanted to walk you through today. So what I'm going to do is pass back to Rich, who's going to do a little summary of exactly what we've seen today.
That's great. Thank you, Rod. So that's everything that we wanted to cover today. So we covered the incident management integration with ServiceNow. we've covered the CMDB, the events, the chatbot integration, as well as looking broader at how Nexthink can give you visibility, true visibility of the experience of your users in their interactions with technology across the organization. In terms of any next steps, if you'd like to contact either ourselves or Highmetric, you can see a couple of email addresses on the screen. I'd also like to make you aware of Nexthink Experience, which is happening in London on Tuesday, the 26th of November, which is an opportunity to hear live from Nexthink customers. We have a number of customers presenting, including Toyota, Johnson & Johnson. So if you have availability on that Tuesday, then please go ahead and register for the event, and we'll send you a link that you can see on the screen after the webinar today. So at this point, Chris, I'd just like to open up to see if we have any questions.
Sure. Yep. Sure thing. We do have a few here. I think, from what you guys took us through today and what we're hearing with our customers, I think, a really other important message around this is that once you start to get this embedded in the organization in IT, it changes kind of the way that you might build your organization's technology roadmap. So you might find that you start focusing on the things that are driving the, you identify what's driving poor experiences for the organization, and then prioritize those in your roadmap. So you kind of bring those results into action, if that makes sense, and it really helps organizations give another dimension to their forward thinking and their planning to really help them focus on the innovation factor for the employees. Just another thing, we've seen that with our clients too, Rich, in terms of that with some of the clients we've been working on with you guys recently. It's kind of a side effect, if you will, in that regard, that you get more focused and more innovative as a result.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Cool. So we do have some questions. First one coming in around the chatbot integration. Not one I've heard before, but is it possible the chatbot integration can be configured to address, I guess, more specific issues within a client's environment? So kind of more specific around some of the areas, maybe related to that customer?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think back to when Rod was taking us through the product, and as we were typing into that chatbot interaction, the filters that Nexthink applies can all be completely configured. So the important thing to stress about the chatbot integration is it is based around the issues that you are seeing within your organization. If you're not configuring the chatbot that way, you're not getting the greatest value for your end users. So absolutely, it's configurable in terms of the types of issues users may be experiencing, the information that's provided, and the automation and the automated fixes that can be made available.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess from our perspective on the ServiceNow side, if you're working with the chatbot and you're configuring that, if a big thing we like to recommend to our customers is to look at the usage and analyze the usage of the service portal and the requests that come in, as well as the chats that come in. Again, that'll kind of help you focus around maybe these are some of the items that we need to automate, and then look to build in Nexthink to automate those actions if they're end user issues. So it kind of works on both sides. Analyze the data and then align with Nexthink to do the resolution from the chat, I think is a good way to approach that, right, Rich?
Yeah, totally, Chris. Absolutely.
Cool. I think we've got time for, we're a little bit over, but I've got time for two more here. So obviously with question comes in around data security and GDPR. So how does Nexthink address, I guess, around capturing any information that they have that may play into companies' GDPR policies or the overall policy in general?
Yeah, sure. So Nexthink captures very little in terms of what you would typically consider personally identifiable information. Now, the definition of that can differ between organisation to organisation. For example, some may consider IP address as personally identifiable information, another organisation may not. The key that Nexthink provides is that you've got the ability to configure and anonymize any data that you may consider to be personally identifiable information. There are also the tools available. So, if you take the right to be forgotten that any individual has as they're leaving your organization, we can also anonymize individual users and device information as they are leaving your organization. So there are a number of options that enable Nexthink to help you adhere to your internal GDPR policies. And we do have further information around security and GDPR as well. So we're more than happy to provide that for anyone who wants a more detailed conversation.
Great. No, that makes sense. And I guess the final one is around automation. So this particular question is, we use ServiceNow automation already from within ServiceNow. How would that work with, I guess, the Nexthink automation that you guys showed? And do you have any customers that are kind of using both, or do they choose one or the other?
Yeah, really good question. And there's a couple of things that I think it's important to mention. If you're using that ServiceNow automation today, Nexthink automation can sit alongside that. And we see many customers utilizing both. And I think the key to that is that point around visibility of user experience, regardless of whether your issue is reporting into the service desk. So absolutely, in those known scenarios, the ServiceNow orchestration is a very powerful tool, and we would encourage customers to continue using that. The key point around the Nexthink automation is you're then being able to have visibility and automate everything that is happening that is potentially impacting the user experience, regardless of whether that's being reported into the service desk. So we often see customers utilizing both and being able to automate resolutions to issues that maybe the service desk isn't currently seeing today.
Gotcha. Okay, so it would be safe to say that typically customers, for the more proactive issues that someone might be seeing that maybe they haven't raised an issue on yet, like you mentioned before, someone might be using Jira and they're experiencing poor performance, that would be noticed right then and there, and the service desk may not know that user was having that particular issue. So you might use the automation to proactively resolve those issues. Whereas if it's a known issue, then the ServiceNow automation would be more kind of something that comes in off the back of a ticket that somebody created, or that gets created maybe in some other way. So I guess that's fair to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris.
Great. Okay, guys. Well, I think that's it for today. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Do be sure, if you're around in London next week, to come see us. We'll be walking around at Nexthink's event as well. And give us a buzz, drop us a line on the emails there, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris.